Have you ever found yourself just wondering, why am I here? Really, why me?
It's such a universal question, isn't it? Hits something deep.
Absolutely. And today we're actually going to dive into a perspective that offers, well, a pretty profound potential answer.
We're looking at this idea that your life, your existence, it wasn't just random chance.
Right, the idea that maybe you were known in some way even before you were born.
Exactly. And we're exploring this mainly through a theological reflection. It's called Known Before Birth by Brother Donato S. Powell Sr.
Okay, so that's our source text and our mission then for this deep dive.
Is to really try and grasp this concept, divine ordination, they call it, and, what it might mean for your own search for purpose, drawing right from Powell's reflection.
Sounds good. The reflection kicks off with a Bible verse that, honestly, it really stops you in your tracks. Jeremiah 1.5. It's powerful. It says, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you, and before you were born, I consecrated you. I appointed you a prophet to the nations." Just hearing that, it feels intensely personal.
It does, and the text points out something crucial about the Hebrew word used there for new.
Yada.
Yeah. It's not just like intellectual knowledge, not just having facts about Jeremiah.
More than that.
Oh, much more. It implies this deep, intimate connection, almost like a covenant relationship kind of knowing. So the idea is, even before physical existence, this bond, this divine intention was already there.
Wow. Okay, so a pre-existing connection. And it's not just an isolated idea in this one verse, is it? The reflection mentions Walter Brueggemann's work.
Right. Brueggemann apparently describes this verse as a, quote, pre-creational claim.
Pre-creational. Okay, let's unpack that. What does that imply? Before creation itself.
Well, what's fascinating, according to the reflection, is that Brueggemann sees this as meaning God's purpose for Jeremiah wasn't, figured out later on.
Not a plan B.
Exactly. It was fundamental, rooted in God's sovereignty right from the absolute beginning, before the universe as we understand it. It really anchors the source of purpose firmly in the divine will.
So circling back to that why me feeling people have, this perspective suggests the answer isn't just within us, but it starts way back with God's intention.
That's the core idea. It's a very different way to frame it.
It really is. The reflection then brings in Psalm 139, verse 16, which seems to build on this.
It does, yeah. It says, "Your eyes have seen my unformed substance, and in your book were all written the days that were ordained for me."
Unformed substance.
Oh.
Days that were ordained.
Yeah.
I mean, that sounds incredibly detailed, like a blueprint.
It really does. It reinforces that sense of a predetermined plan. Not just a general knowing, but almost like a detailed accounting. Like every day, every moment was already noted down in this, metaphorical book.
So if you ever feel like your life is just, I don't know, one random thing after another.
This offers a stark contrast. It suggests an underlying story, a narrative that was already conceived.
Now, the author of the reflection, Powell, he doesn't just stick with the Old Testament. He brings in Jesus' teachings, too.
That's right. Looking at the Gospels.
Yeah, like John 15.1c is quoted, "You did not choose me, but I chose you, and appointed you that you would go and bear fruit." That definitely flips the script on who initiates things.
Absolutely. The focus there is clearly on divine initiative. God choosing, God appointing. It's not presented as us finding God first, but God actively selecting people for a specific purpose.
Which is described there as bearing fruit, making an impact, presumably.
That seems to be the implication, that our purpose, our contribution might stem from this prior divine choice.
And then there's that other verse, it's so intimate, Luke 12.7.
Ah, yes.
Indeed, the very hairs of your head are all numbered. It's such a tiny detail, isn't it? But it says so much.
It really does. What's striking is the sheer level of, granular awareness it suggests.
Right. That level of detail is known.
It powerfully argues against the idea that any life is just, haphazard or accidental. It points towards profound intentionality. Every single detail matters.
Geek reflection also pulls in John 17.6. This is Jesus speaking again, right?
Yes, in his prayer.
He says, "I have manifested your name to the men whom you gave me out of the world. They were yours, and you gave them to me." That sounds very specific, like a deliberate assignment.
It does. And the text mentions a scholar, Andreas Kostenberger,
Okay.
who apparently points out that John's gospel often emphasizes God's active role, God's initiative in salvation and calling.
So this verse fits that pattern.
Exactly. It suggests a direct chain. God gives these individuals to Jesus, and they become part of his specific mission. It's not just being known, it's being Purposefully entrusted.
Entrusted for a role within this bigger divine plan.
That's the picture being painted, yes.
So there's this progression emerging. From being known before birth to being chosen, appointed, even specifically given for a task.
It builds layer upon layer.
And the reflection then takes us to Paul's letter, Ephesians, chapter 2, verse 10.
Another key text for this idea.
It reads, "For we are his workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works, which God prepared beforehand so that we would walk in them." That word, workmanship, it really jumps out.
It does. It's significant. The reflection notes the Greek word is poema.
Poema.
Like poem.
Exactly the root. It implies artistry, intentional craftsmanship, something deliberately and skillfully made.
So we're not just products, but specific creations.
That's the implication. Each life as a unique piece of divine art designed with intention. And those good works, it mentions.
Yeah.
They aren't just random acts of kindness we might choose to do. The verse says they were prepared beforehand.
Prepared for us to walk in them, like a path laid out.
Precisely. Which really makes you think, doesn't it? Could your own specific talents, your inclinations, maybe even your life experiences, could they be part of that pre-prepared path?
It certainly puts a different spin on things. You start looking at your strengths, maybe even your struggles, wondering if they fit into a larger design, not just random.
Right. It shifts the perspective from accident to potential purpose. So the reflection kind of brings all these biblical threads together towards the end.
It does, synthesizing the core message.
And that core message seems to be, your existence isn't an accident. It's rooted in God's active desire for you to exist.
Yes. That inherent intentionality is the absolute key takeaway. If you've ever felt adrift or questioned your value,
Which many people do.
this perspective offers a really powerful counter-narrative. You are here because you were specifically wanted and intended to be here.
So if that why me question pops up again, this reflection offers a direct answer. You exist because God wanted you to, full stop.
And understanding that, the text suggests, isn't just, interesting information. It can actually guide your search for purpose.
How so?
By encouraging you to seek that purpose through a relationship with the divine source of that intention. It also suggests reframing things, seeing personal gifts, experiences, even the hard stuff, suffering.
Seeing those as potentially part of God's larger design for you.
Potentially, yes. Not necessarily understanding why immediately, but trusting there's a place for it within that intentional craftsmanship.
And our response to knowing this, the reflection mentions things like obedience, spiritual growth.
Service, yes. It's framed as aligning ourselves with the purpose woven into our very being by the Creator.
The reflection wraps up with a statement that really encapsulates the whole idea.
It does, very concisely.
It says, you exist because God wanted you to exist. Before you were conceived, he authored your purpose, and in Christ, he reveals it. Your life is not a product of fate, but a manifestation of divine love and wisdom.
It's quite a conclusion. It shifts the narrative from maybe feeling like a pawn of fate to being an expression of intentional love and divine wisdom.
A very different foundation for understanding your life.
Absolutely, from arbitrary to deeply personal and purposeful right from the very start.
Okay, so that brings us to the end of this deep dive, exploring this idea, based on Powell's reflection, that your life, your purpose, were known before you were born.
It's a lot to take in.
It really is.
Yeah.
And maybe here's a final thought for you to carry away and reflect on. If you consider this perspective seriously, just for a moment, how might it actually change the way you look at your life right now? Your current circumstances, your ongoing search for meaning?
How does that lens shift things?
Exactly. Definitely something worth pondering.